Welcome to episode 116 of the Loane Hockey Podcast. Where today we're going to be talking about the matchup between Dallas and Florida from today, where Florida managed to take home a victory in Finland 6-4, and both teams off to a really good start this season. So a really cool global series matchup in Finland, being that two teams are playing really well, and these two teams are looking like they're going to make deeper runs come the playoff time once again. And so with Florida, we'll start with them and how they performed. And obviously, we have to talk about Barkov first because Alexander Barkov was dynamite electric in this game. And he's not really an underrated center anymore. But the thing that stands out to me the most when it comes to him is his coordination and the on puck ability that allows him to basically have the puck on a string. He had 4 points in this game, a goal and 3 assists, and he stood all across the board in terms of puck skill and how he's able to generate with his puck skill. And I always really like watching him through the neutral zone because he can escape pressure so easily and he's so effective at doing it. And he's got that coordination that not many centers at his size have. And so that's really unique because he handles the puck like he's 5'8" with tons of coordination and tons of movement and tons of agility and being able to link together his feet and his hands in a very efficient way. And so Barkov's a guy I notice him a ton. I notice him all the time, and he is obviously elite as a two-way center, and he's elite contributor all around. He was elite for them in the playoffs last year. This is a guy you want leading your team. Pretty straightforward, and he was great throughout all throughout this game as well. And then Aaron Ekblad looked really good this game and 3 assists in this game, and he looked really good as a playmaker, really good as an outlet passer. And there's a steady mobility and presence that he has on the back end where he's not the easiest to get through. And I feel like sometimes defenders notice that where sometimes they try to maneuver around him or they try to maneuver through him or they just try to take an odd route to get around him. And it doesn't necessarily work out because he's got that presence on the back end and that frame. And so with Ekblad, he's a guy that stands out as a two-way D, and obviously in recent years more as an offensive-minded defenseman, and how he's contributing there and how he's able to be efficient in his playmaking. And I noticed his pass first game a lot, and that's a big contribution factor when it comes to his offensive ability and how he's able to generate ozone plays. And he's a guy that stands out on that side of the puck without a seed of doubt, and he's always really effective. Sam Reinhart, 2 goals, 1 assist, and was the highest goal scorer for Florida in this game. He was electric as a scorer and obviously scored a ton of goals last year and had a premier season last year. And now he has a big contract extension to go through that. And this season, he's still maintaining that, which is really impressive, even more than last season, because to score that many goals and then to maintain that standards, it becomes higher and it becomes harder. So with Reinhardt, he's been able to maintain that those so far, and he's done a really good job of being able to do it. And I always notice him as a scorer. His goal scoring touch around the net is really, really underrated. I feel like when it comes to him, you think of goal scorers as guys that shoot from range all the time, but with him, he's actually got a really good knack for finding rebounds around the net, and it's really underrated when it comes to him and how he's able to generate offense. Sam Bennett and Evan Rodriguez were two guys that really stood out. Evan Rodriguez had a multi-point game, and then I've always loved watching this guy Gustav Forsling, and I believe he is Finnish too. I could be wrong. It's either Swedish or Finnish. I don't have it offhand right now. But with Forsling, he is certainly a player who has rounded out his game even more in Florida. And the multiple teams that he's been around in the past, he didn't find a consistent role. Florida is where he's able to find that now. And he's worked relentlessly on himself to be able to get to a point where he can be a top pairing defenseman alongside Aaron Ekblad. And now he's getting matchups where he's playing top pairings and top forward lines every single night. And that's only a benefit to his game because he not only gets the reps, but he also gets the actual competition that he's playing against. Those two things are very important. So Forsling is a guy that he's really fun to watch when you really dive into the details of his skating and his defensive angling and certainly his offense and how he pinches up the wall and how he's able to keep plays alive in the ozone. But I love watching his ability to angle guys off in close space with modern day tactics. And think of Colorado's blue line and how almost all their guys defend skating forwards. They defend on an angle. They defend cutting the ice in half. Like a lot of those elements go to Forsling's ability and how he's able to generate offense as well, how he's able to shut down plays, and how he's able to be efficient as a stick on puck defenseman. And he was really good. And then we'll get to Mackie Samoskevich, who's been really fun to watch throughout the season thus far. Very well looks like he could play the full season with Florida. It's going to be interesting to see if he sticks or not, but he had a goal in this game and he looked really good. And he's using his speed, he's using his skill. He almost looks like a Walmart version of William Nylander. And he's not the same, obviously, as Nylander. Nylander's an elite player, and Samuel Skevich is still a rookie. But I'm talking in terms of pure style and how he's able to utilize that, how he's able to use his speed, his crossovers through the neutral zone, and to create buildup in not only his speed but his offensive routes. And then offensively, how he's able to extend possessions, how he's able to handle the puck with his hip pocket, how he's able to outmaneuver guys one on one. There's a lot of similarities I see between the two stylistically. And then for Dallas, Matt Duchene, who looked really good, 2 assists and was very steady. I've always noticed him as a playmaker. He's always been a guy that's a standout playmaker and a premier pass first player. And he showed that this game, and he was really good all across the board as well. Asa Lindell was a standout for sure for Dallas. Goal and an assist, and playing in his hometown. And Lindell was a guy that I noticed in terms of old school ruggedness, physicality, being able to shut plays down, being able to close guys off with his physicality and his size and his reach. And I noticed those combination of factors in his game and how he's able to generate and be able to shut plays down defensively. Maverick Bork, all the young guys have looked really good. And I'm not surprised that they all look really good. Like Logan Stankoven's looked really good this season. We could talk about him for a while. Wyatt Johnson's very consistent, and he's a guy that's always noticeable. He didn't have any points in this game, but he still stands out every time I watch him. Ilya Labushkin was actually really good as a pass first player this game, and he's bounced around in a lot of different teams the past few years as well. But Labushkin is a guy who he it's hard to really pinpoint him as one thing. He's not really an offensive D. He's not really a two-way D. He's not really a defensive D. It's hard to pinpoint him exactly because there's a lot of interesting insights when I watch him. I don't necessarily notice his defensive play right away. I don't necessarily notice his offensive game right away. I would say though, if there is a quote unquote standout quality when it comes to him, even if it's not the biggest standout quality, it is his passing. And he's really good at keeping pucks flat on the ice. He's really good at keeping his head up, maintaining that vision of the ice. And he's good at being able to find outlet passes, find stretch passes. It's an old school methodology, but it still works for him. And then Jamie Benn looked really good. And then Tyler Seguin, I've actually really liked his game to start the season as well. He's been a guy that's been all over the puck, and he's been a hound on the forecheck. He's been chasing guys down. He's been able to generate some forecheck retrievals in there. And that's the thing. You don't necessarily notice him. It's kind of similar to John Tavares in a way where you don't necessarily notice Sagan for his skating. You notice him for his hockey sense and his positioning. And that's what I notice is the biggest thing when it comes to him. He anticipates plays really well. He has, let me rephrase that. He has above average feet. And, but it's harder for him to maneuver because he doesn't have that same agility. And so with Sagan, he's a guy I've always noticed him as a scorer, as a dual threat player, and being able to generate plays. And but I've noticed his play on the forecheck a lot this season, and it's been really impressive to watch and how he's able to generate retrievals, how he's able to anticipate space on the forecheck, how he's able to seal off the walls, how he's able to close rim around attempts, that type of thing. And he's very active as F1, even if he's not the fastest, and he's very active at supporting as F2 when necessary as well. Sometimes he's F1 hard in, sometimes he's F2 for support. He's usually it's a rare occasion I see him as an F3, but depending on the routes in the system and stuff like that, that can happen. Essentially, I was trying to say there, and he was really good all across the board throughout this game.